I bet you would like to know how old your soul is. I'm going to go through the various different soul ages and what goes along with each of those time of our soul life, if you will. We are here on earth. We reincarnate. We learn life lessons. We start out as little baby souls. We have some challenges. We go through some life and we grow and we get older and we get wiser until eventually we become old souls and we get to graduate from this earth. Doesn't that sound delightful to not have to deal with the muck anymore? So I'd often wonder how old my soul was. I felt like I'd been around the block a time or two, but I didn't really know. And through all of the studying that I've done, I've studied past life regressions, I've studied mediums, I've psychics, near death experiences, I've done tons of reading, including the Time Life books. Shout out to Time Life books for those of you ex gen and older who remember those. And in all of that, I discovered that there are these stages of our soul's growth that we go through. I created a quiz. I used my guides and my intuition and the knowledge and information that I'd gathered to create this quiz. You can take it if you like. It's fun. It's only 20 questions. I'm going to link to it down below. And you can not only take the quiz and find out how old you are, but you will also receive a downloaded guide that goes through all of the soul ages that I'm going to go through today. And so from all of the things that I learned about these stages. Now we can go to psychics, but who doesn't love a good quiz? I like a good quiz. But in this video, I'm going to go through the various different soul ages so that you can get a sense about where you might be at, where your friends and family might be at, and have a little bit of more nuanced understanding of how we're working through our lives, this world, what we're working on, what we're learning, so that maybe we can understand each other a little bit more and come together a bit better when we know, like, oh, well, that's where you're at. You're working on this. I'm working on this. That's okay. We're just at different places in our journey. I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting to learn. I thought you might. Okay, so let's get into it. When you first incarnate into human form, you're a little soul on the other side, and you're like, yeah, I'm ready to go through that hot mess of life on earth because you don't know any better. And you feel expansive and that everything is possible. So you decide to incarnate into earth. And of course, this is about those that are choosing to incarnate onto earth. Some of you out there may not have always been on earth. You may have been from some other planets. I don't specialize in that. I can't talk to that. I'm going to talk about all my earthling beings out there. This first soul level I call the new soul. It can also be called the infant soul. I like color coding things. So for me, I call this the red soul. In this stage, you are first learning how to be in physical body. Now, I'm going to guess none of you out there that are watching this are a red soul, but we have all been a red soul in the past. We went through this time period in our soul growth. And in this time period, we were figuring about what it was to be in a human body. Being a soul in a human body is a bit of a challenge. We're still dealing with that no matter what age you're at. This dynamic, this push and pull between our spiritual self and our physical body is one to wrangle. When we first get into physical form, it's particularly hard. Those urges, the animal nature that helped us to evolve and survive over millennia, that is very strong in the new soul, and it's very hard to figure out how to navigate that because they are just figuring out, or we were just figuring out how to be in physical body. We get put places where we might be a little bit more contained, where we're maybe not going to do as much harm, meaning red souls aren't getting put in the middle of cities. They're not getting put in highly populated areas because they're going to be more likely to murder, to rape, to cause chaos because of these physical body, these animalistic survival instincts that overwhelm us. In which case, you're going to find these folks, these red folks, in more primitive societies. And not to say that everybody in a primitive society is a young soul, certainly not. We all get to incarnate all different sorts of places. There's different reasons for us to be in different places. But it is more likely, it's a little bit more likely that those souls are going to be in remote places where they're going to really be learning about survival and learning about how to be in a family, how to be around other people, how to not let these emotions and energies take over us. So if you are for some interesting reason a red soul watching this, the advice on what to focus on in your lives is to learn how to have a little bit more mastery over the physical body, a little bit more control over those base urges, and learn to have more authority over the physical body so that it's not taking you along for the ride. So you're ready to move on from the stage when you have figured out how to handle your body and you're ready to focus on community. So that takes us into the orange soul. When you have gotten to the point where you're comfortable with the physical body, you've got that figured out. You're not murdering everybody left and right. Then you get to move on to the orange soul. Now, the orange soul is now about people. You've gotten beyond survival, and now you get to just focus on how do you interact with all these people around you. It's through the orange soul, or what I like to call the young soul, though you might also hear it called the baby soul if you're doing some research. It's in this stage, what I call the young soul, that you start to learn about morality and tradition and rules. And what does it mean to be a part of a community? What does it mean to be connected? How are you? You're no longer just focusing on survival. Now you're like, hey, there are other people around me here. How does this all work? Because it's different than it is on the other side. How do we interplay? How do we interact? So these folks are going to be a lot more focused on tradition. You're going to still find them in smaller towns. You can maybe find them in larger towns and cities, but mostly they're in smaller towns, or maybe they're in more countries that are a little bit more rigid in their structure, a little bit more authoritarian. They really want to have, the orange souls really go through this experience of having structure and rules. They learn how to be a part of society. Now, of note, they can be a part of it through, like, they're belonging to their religion or their military or their some other community group. They're also learning about laws. They're learning about rules. They might be more interested in being in law or policing or of that nature. They might also be on the other side. They might be experiencing the other side of laws and rules and traditions by being maybe the people that are in jail, the people that are breaking the laws, that are breaking the rules, that are breaking the traditions. We learn about things from both sides. So back in the red lifetimes, we may have been murdering people and we may have been being murdered. We're experiencing both sides so that we can have a complete and robust experience before we move on up. So again, orange life, we're learning about structure, rules, morality. If you are an orange soul, again, probably not likely, because orange souls are going to be found in more traditional religious belief systems, but maybe you know some folks that are like this. It's really about learning how it is to be a part of a community, about taking care of each other, sticking up for one another, how we interact, how we interrelate. One of the challenges about being at this age is you want to take your rules and laws and order and put it on everybody else, because you really want to have, you've had lives where things were chaotic. Now you want lives that feel safer and have a lot more structure and a lot more control, because woo, that was really hard in the beginning, living in the wild. Now you want something that's a little bit more predictable. But because of that, you want to control everybody else as well. You want everybody else to behave and everybody else to go along the same rules and structures that you have been born into or decided to align yourself with. You're ready to move on to the next stage when you're able to see, oh, that maybe there's some gray area in these roles. Maybe there's room for other ways of living life beyond this structure, this tradition. When you realize that this these traditions, these structures, these frameworks, maybe there needs to be a little bit more flexibility. There needs to be a little bit more to life than trying to control everything. So then you're ready to move on to the next level, and this is the yellow soul. I call this the middle soul because it's kind of like the middle age of your spectrum, because we're going from red to blue. So yellows, you're right in the middle. There might be more folks in the yellow. You might just be curious, particularly people that are yellow that are ready to go on to green. So it's possible. But it's also possible that you yellow souls are just too busy to be watching a video like this. Way too busy. Because the yellow souls, now you've done the community, you've done structure, you've looked out for everybody else, you've played those games, and now you are ready to do it for yourself. Now it is about you. It's your time. You have dreams. You have a mission. You want to make money. You want to create things. It is the yellow souls that really create a lot of the amazing things we have in the world because they are so driven. This is a very individual focused time. So again, the red soul, it was individual focused. The orange soul, it was community focused. The yellow soul, it's back to the individual. It's back to the self and what you can do and who you are and how you can be powerful in the world. It really is about finding your own power, right? And tapping into your creative nature. What can you create? What can you make? What can you build? What can you do? What can you earn? What title can you get? For example, I was just watching a video about Mr. Beast. He's a perfect example of a yellow soul. From when he was like 11 years old, he was on fire with this idea to create a YouTube channel. And he didn't care about relationships. He didn't care about what was his calling. What he really cared about was this passion to build and create and make money, but also to just put something in the world. Our folks in those yellow soul zones are making a lot of stuff happen. You're doing life. You're on fire. Go do it. Now, some of the challenges at this zone, right? You're so focused on whatever it is you're trying to achieve that you're not paying attention to your relationships. You're not paying attention to yourself. Maybe you're not taking care of your body unless you're taking care of your body in that sense of like, you want to have this really attractive body, because that can also be part of the yellow soul. That like me sort of a vibe. I want to look good. I want to have attention. I want to be thought of well. I want to have status. So that status can be in looks as well as money or career. You're going to find a lot more yellow souls. Like, I think the perfect example is the United States. The United States is a very yellow soul country. Now we're starting to get a little bit more green soul. Good for us. And we certainly have a lot of orange souls. We certainly have a lot of orange souls. And it's interesting, when you look around the country, you're going to find different parts of the country have more conglomeration of different kinds of souls. So with the yellow soul, I think New York City, I think Los Angeles. Those are great examples of places that you're going to find a lot more yellow souls that are in that middle achieving stage of their growth. You're ready to move on when you realize you get to the top of the ladder. You get your achievements and you find out that there's something missing, that it isn't everything that you thought it was going to be, that you still feel a bit hollow inside, and you're ready to start to explore what's next. So that takes us to the green souls. I'm going to guess a lot of you watching are green souls. The green soul is also what I call the mature soul stage. So you've gone from self to others to self, you go back to others. Now you are focused on other people. You've done you. You did you. And now you start to be aware of the impact that you have on other people. And that can be in positive ways and negative ways. The green stage can be really challenging. It can be really hard because you get filled with a lot of insecurities, a lot of self-doubt, or maybe you become more empathetic, and you start, because you've had all these lives, you've experienced all these different incarnations of ways of being, you have a much deeper understanding of what it is to struggle and to have hardships. So when you see other people in your life or in the world that are struggling, you have a lot of empathy because there's something in you that relates and connects to that trauma that you've experienced in the past. So it can be very tumultuous and very emotionally charged time period. It's in this stage when you're really learning about relationships. Now, in the orange soul stage, you learned about relationships in a different context. You learn more about it in terms of community and structure. Green now gets to a deeper level. It's about understanding each other. It's about understanding yourself and your behaviors and why you do things and why other people do things. And you're going to learn about relationships, sometimes from the presence of hard relationships, sometimes from not having any relationships at all, because perhaps it's in the absence of a relationship that you're able to really deepen and understand that. And sometimes it'll be in having these really beautiful relationships so that you're looking at what it is to be human and related to other people, connected to other people from a variety of different angles, right? In every stage, we're going to be looking at things from a variety of different angles. The yellow stage, right, is a lot about success, but that's also a time period where you're going to experience poverty and where you're going to experience failure because you're going to experience both sides of that seesaw. So in those green lives, we're experiencing love and we're experiencing the absence of love. We're experiencing a lot around connection and ourselves and really understanding what it is to be both a human and a soul. And I think if we were talking about countries, I always think that's kind of interesting because there are certain countries have a little bit more of different types of souls. I think you're going to find Northern Europe to be a little bit more green soul-esque, right? Because they're more socialist, they're more about taking care of each other. And that's not to say everybody in those countries is a green soul and you don't have your orange souls, your yellow souls. Of course, it's a mixture. We're a mixture. But when you're talking about the overall sort of vibe of a country, something to kind of consider. What to work on if you're a green soul. So if you're a green soul, what you can really work on is understanding yourself, a lot of personal development work, a lot of growth, understanding other people, and a lot of spiritual development work. Yeah, a lot of personal development in this stage, a lot of personal development and personal growth. And then you're getting ready to be an old soul. So a lot of people that are green souls are often perceived as old souls because, I mean, they are, right? They have been through, let's do math. Red, orange, yellow, green. You're through 4. And let's say you do 50 lifetimes. That's like 150 lifetimes just to get to the green soul. 150 lifetimes. Okay? So, yeah, that's pretty old, but it is not the oldest. You're not ready to leave just yet. Let's get you on into the blue stage. Now, the blue stage is the old soul stage. By this point, you've had a lot of lives. You've had a lot of experience. You're graduating from the green soul to the blue soul when you have a lot more acceptance of who you are, the drama of being a human being. You start to have an acceptance of things being the way they are. You start to have an understanding about that there's a purpose to everything, that there's a connection between everything. So a lot of you might be green going into blue. You might be early blue. You might be full blue. I myself am a green soul. I'm kind of green blue. Starting to get into those blue lives, but I have worked with folks in my coaching that are blue souls, and they show up. They show up in a specific way. Blue souls tend to be pretty calm. I find not always, but they tend to be very accepting. Sometimes they can be sad because they accept life as it is, but that also means that they accept that life can be really hard for people. There can be a sense of a little bit of disconnection and ungroundedness for blue souls because they know they're in their final lifetimes and they're getting ready to let go and go on to the next stage beyond being in physical form. So again, red soul is about themselves, orange is about community, yellow is about yourself, green's about other people. Blue, it comes back to you kind of being grounded and centered in yourself because you're respecting the divinity in everybody else. But then you also get into that sense of that sense of connection to everybody on that higher, we are all one sort of a way, right? When we think about spiritual folks, we're really thinking about these blue souls. When I say we, I mean those of us in the new age metaphysical sort of realm, um, those of us who believe in things like reincarnation and crystals, that this sense of oneness, that's when the blue souls are really learning about how we are all one and connected, and that it's like bringing those two together, that you realize that you are an individual and you are part of the collective, and that both of those are the same, right? That other people are you. It's bringing those two halves into a whole. It's that, you go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And in the blue life, you find the balance between the two. What to work on if you're a blue soul? My little blue souls out there, these are your last lives. So you're going to be working on wrapping up life lessons, balancing out any karma. I think all the healing that you can do, all the forgiveness that you can do so that you can release some of those karmic bonds. This is also going to be, your last few lives in a physical body. So this might be a time to like enjoy it. Again, when we talk about geographic locations, blue souls are going to be a little bit more overwhelmed by big city life. You might find them more going back to those more natural places, more remote. You might find that they end up incarnating in places and pockets of younger souls so that they can help them grow and learn. So think about the wisdom keeper in a tribe, might be an example. The priest in a small community. Somebody that's coming in and trying to help those younger souls that are trying to figure out what all this is, right? That are able to be a bit of a light into these places. There are different cities that are known to be more spiritually oriented. You're going to find more blue souls in those areas. Well, that's not the only place. They might just be out in their RV living life, because they also get to a point where they don't really care so much about material success. They don't really care about having some career or some job or making some sort of an impact even. They've done that. They've done that. Now they want to live. They often will live very simply. They want to simply follow their own internal knowing and their own internal drives and their own intuition. They want to follow their own path, and they want to be free. So they might be the ones traveling across the country in an RV, letting life go where it takes them, and not necessarily needing to have a lot of financial security, because they know they've had enough lives to understand that things come and go, that everything works out one way or the other. And yes, you're going to have hard problems and hard experiences no matter what you do. And you know that you will survive it. You know that you will get through it. So there's a calmness and an acceptance about life and the way it is. So the opportunity as well is to be around people and to help remind them of who their divinity is just by being who you are, that you help wake up people and help them see their possible potential just by being in your energy field. So you're ready to move on from the blue life when you have fully accepted and realized your own divinity. You're able to connect into the whole, you're awakened, right? What we often will say is awakening. You're no longer living from that place of the egoic mind. You're living in a state of presence. You're living in a state of interconnection. Then you're ready to graduate and move on beyond the earth realm. What's beyond that? I will do other videos to talk about the other side, but I will, just because we're talking about soul ages, it's not that you stop to exist. I just want to touch upon that. Now you go beyond. You don't need to have earth school anymore because you've graduated from it. You will continue to learn and grow, because eventually you're going to get to the point where you rejoin with consciousness, with all that is, with source, that you become part of source. But there is still growing that you'll do on the other side before you get to that point. I know you want to be done with it. You want to finally get to the end game, but at least, you know what, at least you're not having to go through the earth body stuff anymore. I mean, you are, because you're watching this, so you're in an earth body. So that's a high level overview. Like I said, I have a guide that goes through, this is what the stage is about. These are your challenges. These are your opportunities. This is what career looks like. This is what relationships look like. This is what your relationship with yourself looks like. This is what you need to move on. It's sort of a one pager for whatever stage you're in to help you as you're navigating this life. So, again, if you're interested in taking a quiz to find out what age you might be, you can go to my website, jillianharrington.com, and navigate to Soul Ages quiz. But I also will put a direct link in the down below. I'll put a direct link in the down below for you to access that. And also, if you want to work with me to get yourself out of the stage that you're in and move on to the next one, or get unstuck, I do one-on-one coaching, so you can check out my website to do that as well. So if you've gotten to this point, I guess that you thought this was interesting. So subscribe, because I'm going to be putting a lot of videos to help you on your soul's journey and to help you in very practical ways and some more esoteric ways on really making the most of this particular life that you're in. That is my mission. That is my goal. So please subscribe so I can help you continue to grow old in your soul, continue to age, but continue to evolve. I want to make sure that you don't get stuck and that you really make the most of this life. That's what I'm here for. That's my soul purpose. So subscribe and let's see what we get up to. I am curious, from all of this, what stage soul do you think you are? And if you take the quiz, did it match it? Just let me know. Just let me know if it matches what you think or not. Thanks. All right, here's to getting on with life.